Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the history, the incredible rhythmic mechanics, and the sheer emotional resonance of W.H. Auden's classic poem, Night Mail. We're gonna explore exactly how a highly practical, everyday piece of promotional writing miraculously evolved into one of the most celebrated examples of film soundtrack verse in the English language. Seriously, it's amazing how poetry and industry collided here to create something completely timeless.
So let's just dive right in with a simple question. Have you ever waited anxiously for the postman's knock? You know the feeling, right? That sudden quickening of your heart when you're waiting for a letter, a much anticipated package, or maybe just a postcard from a friend to arrive. That universal sense of anticipation, that quiet hope delivered right to your doorstep, is exactly the engine that fuels the masterpiece we're breaking down today.
All right, Section 1. Meet W.H. Auden.
To really appreciate this verse, we have to understand the mind that crafted it. Wystan Hugh Auden was born into a professional middle-class family in England back in 1907. He was a deeply intellectual guy, studying English at Oxford, and in 1935, still pretty early in his blossoming literary career, he wrote Night Mail. Later on, his life took a major international turn when he became an American citizen in 1946. He actually kept his British citizenship, though, and went on to teach at several prominent American universities, bringing this incredibly unique transatlantic perspective to his students until he passed away in 1973.
And as a writer, Auden was remarkably versatile. I mean, the man possessed this rare ability to write beautifully and incisively about practically any facet of the human experience. He wrote about profound personal grief and love in famous poems like Funeral Blues, but he also tackled massive political and social upheavals in works like September 1, 1939. This incredible breadth, his ability to zoom out and see sweeping geopolitical forces, but also zoom in on the quiet, intimate moments of an individual life, perfectly positioned him for what was actually a very unusual, strictly commercial assignment.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Postal Service film.
You see, Night Mail wasn't originally conceived as some standalone piece of high art for a prestigious literary journal. Not at all. It actually originated from a starkly practical, bureaucratic need, making a documentary film to serve as the public face of a modern, trustworthy postal system. Back in 1935, the General Post Office Film Unit wanted to showcase their impressive logistical efficiency to the British public, but just as importantly, they needed something to boost the low morale of the working-class postal workers themselves. So they commissioned this film, and Auden was brought on board as an assistant director with one very specific task: to write a verse commentary that would elevate the final minutes of the footage.
And Auden's writing process for this was just incredibly unique. Far from the cliché of a poet staring thoughtfully out a window, Auden was right there in the gritty reality of the editing room. He literally paced his poetry to precisely match the visual rhythm of the train's wheels spinning on the tracks. He worked with a stopwatch in order to fit it exactly to the shot. Just imagine the technical difficulty of that for a second. We have a poet not just counting traditional poetic syllables, but counting the literal, physical seconds of a spinning film strip to make sure his spoken words perfectly mirrored the visual acceleration of a massive steam train.
Moving on to Section 3, Rhythm of the Rails.
This setup brilliantly illustrates the structural genius of the poem. The subject here is the LMS Postal Special Express train traveling all the way from London Euston up to Aberdeen in Scotland. Auden uses this steady, labored meter in lines like, pulling up B-Dock, a steady climb, the gradient's against her, but she's on time. The actual cadence of the words physically mimics the heavy, rhythmic chugging of a steam train, pushing its immense weight up a steep hill. When you read it out loud, it's like you can practically hear the train shoveling white steam over her shoulder and snorting noisily as she passes. It is a total masterclass in making language perform the exact physical action it's describing.
Let's look at Section 4, a catalog of letters.
Now, the crucial takeaway here is the striking contrast Auden creates between the vessel and its contents. On one hand, you have the immense mechanical power of the train itself, the fields of apparatus, the glowing furnaces set out on the dark plain like giant chessmen, the deafening roar of shoveling coal and steam. It's all iron, raw force, and heavy industry. But on the other hand, you have the deeply intimate, emotional, and thoroughly human nature of the cargo it carries, timid lovers' declarations and simple neighborhood gossip. It's this massive, unrelenting machine whose sole purpose is to gently deliver the most fragile and delicate of human sentiments.
As the train crests the hill and speeds up on its descent, the vocal pacing of the poem rapidly accelerates right alongside it. Auden starts listing the overwhelming avalanche of letters using incredibly vivid imagery, letters written on paper of every hue.
He specifically calls out the pink, the violet, the white, and the blue. By color-coding the mail like this, he makes the sheer volume and the dizzying variety of the correspondence visually pop in your mind. Instead of just picturing a monolithic sack of paper, we suddenly see a vibrant, moving mosaic of millions of individual lives all in transit. We can actually break down this massive haul to truly appreciate the astonishing scope of what this logistical network handled every single night. Auden explicitly lists financial mail, like checks, postal orders, and receipted bills, showing the very lifeblood of the economy in motion. Then he moves to social mail, capturing the fabric of society with gossip from all the nations, formal invitations, and holiday snaps. And finally, he grounds it all with emotional mail, letters of unbridled joy, timid lovers' declarations, and heartbreaking letters of condolence. It really emphasizes how this one train is quite literally connecting every single facet of human existence. Notice how masterfully he balances these contrasting elements in that rapid-fire rhythm. He writes of the chatty, the catty, the boring, adoring. He mentions notes that are clever, stupid, short, and long, and those typed, printed, and spelt all wrong. He builds this dizzying momentum to prove one fundamental point. Absolutely no human experience, no matter how profound or how incredibly ordinary, is left behind on this journey. Everyone is represented in those swaying mail cars. And this brings up an incredible juxtaposition regarding class and society. Auden emphasizes the postal system as a great societal equalizer. It's a profoundly democratic institution. The night mail brings letters for the rich, letters for the poor, the shop at the corner, and the girl next door. It faithfully carries the cold official bureaucratic notices right alongside the heart's truest outpourings, delivering them to every doorstep without prejudice. It simply doesn't discriminate. The reliable rhythm of the train serves the entire nation equally. And finally, Section 5, the universal human longing. The physical journey of the LMS Postal Special ultimately arrives at its destination in Scotland, and our narrative reaches its profound emotional core. The frenetic, accelerating energy of that long list of letters slowly fades away. The nation is deep in slumber. The train passes quietly through working Glasgow, well-set Edinburgh, and granite Aberdeen. Thousands are asleep, dreaming of terrifying monsters or friendly tea. But Auden doesn't end on the sleeping masses. Instead, he brings the focus tightly and so intimately back to the individuals who will soon wake up, noting that they shall wake soon and long for letters. Which leads to this magnificent, completely devastating closing line. And none will hear the postman's knock without a quickening of the heart, for who can bear to feel himself forgotten? What began as a remarkably simple PR commission, a stopwatch-timed verse designed just to make a government train look efficient, is transformed into an enduring testament to our universal, desperate need for human connection. So I'll leave you with Auden's brilliant question to ponder. As we move through our own highly connected, yet often isolating digital world today, who among us can truly bear to feel forgotten?